I love the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And I'm not alone. The Pirates franchise has raked in over $4 billion at the box office, and it's clear to see why. The characters, the music, everything about these movies is iconic. But the key to their success lies not in their brilliant casting or iconic scores. It's the feeling of joy they deliver through chaotic comedy. No Pirates film does this better than Dead Man's Chest. The Isle Cruces sequence in Dead Man's Chest is a Pirates' greatest hits montage, delivering jokes, classic Jack Sparrow antics, and most importantly, pure entertaining chaos. It does all this through 3 simple techniques: setting the scene, raising the stakes, and audience surrogates. My name is Noah, and I like films, so today we're taking a look at Dead Man's Chest to see how Gore Verbinski and crew create comedy from chaos. For those of you who haven't seen Dead Man's Chest, okay, who am I kidding? You've all seen it, but for the 2 of you who haven't, let's quickly recap. This scene takes place on Isle Cruces, where Davy Jones has buried a chest that contains his heart. Whoever possesses the chest controls Davy Jones, therefore ruling the seas. Jack Sparrow, Will Turner, and Commodore Norrington all want the chest for different reasons, and Davy Jones wishes to protect the chest at all costs. Side note, he can't come to shore, so he sends his lackeys instead. Alright, now that we've got all the exposition out of the way, let's get into why this scene works so well. Verbinski sets the scene by explicitly stating each of the characters' goals. Twice. First, the characters themselves directly tell each other their motivations.
I'm gonna kill Jones.
Can't let you do that, will you? Because if Jones is dead, who's to call his terrible beastie off the hunt, eh?
I keep the promises I make, Jack. I intend to free my father. I hope you're here to see it.
I can't let you do that either. So sorry.
I knew you'd warm up to me eventually.
Lord Beckett desires the contents of that chest. I deliver it. I get my life back.
Then One Eye here explicitly states their goals and motivations for a second time.
How'd this go, Screwy?
Well, each wants the chest for himself, don't he? Mr. Norrington, I think, is trying to regain a bit of honour. Old Jack's looking to trade it, save his own skin. And Turner there, I think he's trying to settle some unresolved business twixt him and his twice-cursed pirate father.
One Eye here practically bashes us over the head with exposition, reminding even the most distracted viewer exactly what's going on and why it matters. While I normally wouldn't be a fan of this heavy-handed style of dialogue, especially since the motivations of the characters can be sussed out by anyone paying an ounce of attention to the film, it works here for 2 reasons. First, it solidifies the 3 main characters' goals as important. Without this line, a lot of people would probably be scratching their heads later in the scene, wondering why they're even fighting over the key in the first place. One Eye's line eliminates that possibility, and I have a sneaking suspicion that this was added post-focus group viewings. Second, it's played as a joke, one that is actually quite funny. One Eye has a surprising moment of wisdom and insight, succinctly summing up the goals of each character into one simple sentence for each. The performance given while delivering this line, along with the numerous times we've seen this guy be a complete bumbling idiot,
It's the Bible, you get credit for trying.
make it really funny, keeping it from being annoyingly heavy-handed. One of the most important facets of selling a scene of this nature to an audience is getting the audience to admit to the scene's importance. If you can convince them that a scene is important, then whatever happens in the scene, no matter how ridiculous, will be accepted as not only possible, but required. By setting the scene immediately, Verbinski sells the ridiculousness that is to come. As Dead Man's Chest is the second movie in the Pirates franchise, audiences have seen sword fights before, so Verbinski raises the stakes in 3 ways. First, and the most obvious, is the set itself. From splashing around in the water to jungle chases, rooftop sword fights, and whatever this is called, this scene is ridiculous. And it's perfect. It feels like a Disney ride, a roller coaster from start to finish. Oh, you didn't think this 3-way sword fight could get any crazier? Now they're on top of the building. Don't think we can do anything more? Fuck you, here's a giant hamster wheel Turner and Norrington are going to fight on. By putting Jack, Will, and Norrington in increasingly deadly situations, What would otherwise be a normal, run-of-the-mill sword fight is kept interesting and fun. The second way Verbinski raises the stakes is simple. He brings in a third character. A three-way sword fight is something that the Pirates movies hadn't done before, and the history between each character made the fight so much more dynamic. In simple terms, this scene couldn't have happened in the first movie.
By your leave, Mr. Norrington!
The third and final way Verbinski raises the stakes is by using the MacGuffins he's previously sold the audience on. Dead Man's Chest splits the MacGuffins up at the start, creating two different subplots, the fight for the key and the fight for the chest. The fight for the key is kept moving by the MacGuffin constantly changing hands. Let's count how many times the key changes hands before Jack finally opens the chest. 9 times.
9 times?
9 times.
This amount of movement of a MacGuffin is absurd for any film, creating a constant, chaotic tension that keeps the scene entertaining. But even a sword fight would get boring after 10 minutes. That's where the second subplot comes into play. The fight for the chest gives something for Elizabeth and Dumb and Dumber to do, giving them agency. It also introduces Davy Jones' crew as an antagonistic force who want the chest for themselves. Either of these two subplots alone would get boring, but by bringing them together and cutting between them, the scene is kept dynamic until everyone finally converges on the beach. Alright, so after we've set the scene and made the chaos, how do we make the comedy? For anyone scratching their heads and wondering what an audience surrogate is, don't worry, I had to look it up too. According to tvtropes.org, an audience surrogate can be 3 things. 1. The viewpoint character. 2. A character who asks questions the audience would ask and says things the audience would say. Or 3. A character who the audience doesn't just sympathize with, but are supposed to actively see themselves as, by desire, by default, or by author inference. The Isle Cruces chase uses Elizabeth, Thing 1 and Thing 2, and some of Davy Jones' crew to act as surrogates for the audience, acknowledging the ridiculousness of what's going on within the scene. The best example of this is when Elizabeth and the pirates pause to look at the wheel going by in utter disbelief. Because the film, through Elizabeth mainly, acknowledges its own insanity, the insanity is therefore justified. This is something the later Pirates movies sorely lack, a voice of reason. Jack Sparrow creates comedy out of chaos, but chaotic comedy only exists if the characters watching Jack acknowledge what they're witnessing is insane. There must be a flip side of the coin. All of Jack's best gags have onlookers. From the time we meet him, the portmaster makes light of Jack's ridiculous situation.
It's a shilling to tie up your boat at the dock.
Commodore Norrington is astounded that Jack can fly through the air on a rope.
Now will you shoot him? Open fire!
All of these gags are timeless, and they all rely on a character observing the chaos they are forced to be a part of, and then accepting it.
Jack! It's not possible.
Not probable.
By Stranger Tides, the movies give up on anyone being surprised by Jack's antics. With Barbossa, a character who throughout the series has been confounded by Jack's inexplicable ability to do the impossible, just accepting that Jack can do these things.
What's he doing? Planning an escape route. Isn't that how you do it?
Yes.
Well, sometimes I just improvise.
Once the other characters have accepted that Jack can just do these crazy things, Jack becomes more than human, an almost superhuman deity capable of anything. Once Jack is more than human, the ridiculous nature of his exploits lose their comedic value, as he is no longer a man thrust into wild situations, but a character forced into more and more ridiculous situations that have no hope of escape without even more ridiculous and unrealistic actions.
That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
So it would seem.
Finally, this scene could never work without the ridiculously good performances of the actors. I know I said it last video, but I'm going to say it again. The actors sell the scene. Not only are they delivering their lines perfectly, the way they use their bodies to create both chaos and physical comedy sell the scene, and each actor gets their moment to shine. From Elizabeth shouting no and sitting in exasperation, to Jack trying to grab the key and getting stuck in the wheel, and Willing Norrington's drunken dizziness, the actors' performances sell the scene. Without Kira, Orlando, Tom, and Johnny's exceptional performances, this scene, and movie as a whole, would have never worked. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like on the video, and consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot. For more of my unhinged thoughts and rants, follow me on Twitter at NoahLikesFilm. As always, if there's any scenes you want me to break down in the future, leave a comment down below.